After helping reverse nearly 400 cases of Crohn's and colitis, I can confidently say that upwards of 80% of these cases have parasites as a contributing factor to their disease. Some, it seems to be like it's the sole cause. It's the reason you have IBD. So on this live, you're going to be learning what parasites are and of course how you get them. We're going to talk about the symptoms that you need to be looking for and most importantly, how to test for them and how to get rid of them, but ultimately get rid of them safely. Contrary to what your doctors told you, Crohn's and colitis are reversible. Now, I've helped hundreds of people reverse their bowel disease, and I'm here to help you do it too, because inflammation always has a root cause. We just have to find it. This is the Reversing Crohn's and Colitis Naturally podcast. Now, I do these live trainings in my Facebook group every single week and put the audios here for you to listen to. If you want to watch the video versions of these episodes, just click the link in the show notes to get access to our Facebook group and YouTube channel. And for weekly updates, information, tips, and tricks, you can sign up for our email list by clicking the link in the show notes below. Now, if you don't know me, my name's Josh Deck. I'm an IBD specialist, medical lecturer, and physician's consultant, as well as a scientific strategist and education director for the Root Cause for Crohn's Colitis organization. And today, I'm showing you how parasites are causing your IBD. I want to talk about parasites. Parasites can make you sick for a few different reasons, but I want to anchor this back to the conversation I often have, which is the three primary reasons we get sick. What are the three primary reasons we get sick? Well, we get sick due to toxins of some kind of deficiency, and some kind of microbe. Now, toxins can be everything from heavy metals to noxious gas to VOCs to mold to whatever kind of toxin. Stress, blood sugar can be toxic. Microbes are going to be bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, etc. And deficiencies are going to be your main nutrient deficiencies, what your body needs to basically keep alive. Well, here's what parasites do. Parasites, they're microbial organisms, so they're microbes, okay? And actually live in or on a host, that's you. And they steal nutrients, making you deficient in nutrients. They steal them at your expense. And what they do is they end up creating toxic waste, urine and defecation, and all kinds of toxins they produce inside of your body. So the three reasons we get sick, parasites can cause all three of these things. Their very presence inside of your body leads to immune responses. It's a very reactive, inflammatory response, and that theft of nutrients contributes to disease states. So we get sick for three reasons: some kind of toxin, some kind of infection, or some kind of deficiency. Parasites happen to meet all three criteria, and they can actually open the door for more toxins, more microbes to come in. So you have to really watch for these guys. They're really, really nasty. So there's about 1 million different species of parasites understood to be worldwide. About 1,400 of them infect humans. Now, there's different locations for these parasites when they create all this nastiness. There's what we call endoparasites. There's ectoparasites. Endo means inside, so inside of your body. Ecto, they're on your skin or somewhere outside of your body. And then there's intra or extracellular, so they're either in the cell or outside of the cell. That's where they live. And so we have a couple different classifications of parasites. And to understand this helps you understand what they do and the different things they're doing inside of your body. So we know, for example, one class of parasites, we call these protozoa. So these are going to be little single cell individual guys. But what they're going to be looking like is Giardia, really nasty parasite. Cryptosporidium, nasty. Toxoplasma gondii, these little individual parasites which can hijack your brain. I did a whole podcast episode on them. They're fascinating. When they impact the brains of mice, they actually burn out the fear center of the brain, making them more likely to be eaten by a cat, because that's where Toxoplasma gondii lives really well, is in the belly of a cat. So they can hijack the brain of a living organism. It's really wild stuff. So these individual microbes we got to watch for. Other ones we're going to see are going to be worms. Now, worms, the other word you might hear them call is helminths, but this is going to cover classes like tapeworms, roundworms, pinworms, whipworms, even lung and liver flukes, and many others. And then, of course, you have your ectoparasites, the guys on the outside, which are like scabies and head lice. So these are all types of parasites. There's lots of them, 1,400 that can infect humans. But here's the thing. Parasites we know have to eat. And when they eat, remember, there's three reasons we get sick. You have toxins, you have microbes, and you have deficiencies. When parasites eat, they're active in your system. It's a microbe. Your body's like, dude, we gotta get out of here. Get these guys out. So there's an immune reaction. They eat tissue. We're going to talk about some of the things they eat. For example, they can eat like blood and iron, which will leave you anemic, for example. So they create deficiencies. And then they pee and poop just like other living organisms. So they create toxins and toxic waste. So parasites can actually create anemia because they'll feed on your iron. They can feed on hemoglobin. So red blood cell, they can actually eat that. They can eat bile and fat, which is going to leave you with disrupted bile flow, a lot of toxic buildup. They can physically block your bile ducts. So if you're having trouble digesting fats, you get bloated, nauseous, vomiting, oily, greasy stools, diarrhea. It could be a parasite blocking your bile ducts. Liver flukes are very, very common for this. We can also see nutrient deficiencies, which your doctor might go, oh, you have malabsorption syndrome. Your intestines are inflamed, you're low on nutrients, you just have this thing where your body can't absorb. What if it's not an absorption issue? What if it's something is eating it issue? Right? They love things like sugar. They love amino acids. Certain things like tapeworms will love amino acids and proteins. They can invade muscle tissue and eat those. If you've got like chronic ongoing back pain, like lower back especially, hips, those things, and you're like, man, every time I go to a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a massage, I just can't get rid of this. Could be a parasite actually inflaming the muscle. All right, they do all kinds of nasty business. So we have to really watch for these. They can eat lymphatic fluid. So if you're somebody who's got lymphedema or swelling of lymphatics somewhere, anywhere, you can look at your armpits, your neck, backs of the knees, belly, this type of stuff. If you have skin issues, it can be a parasite thing. They can actually eat the tissues of your lungs. You can get lung flukes. They can eat the liver as well. They can eat muscle, leading to aches and pains, inflammation, all kinds of stuff. You got asthma, could be mold. 40% of mold cases cause, or 40% of asthma cases are mold. They can also cause asthma because of parasites, for example. They can infect your brain, like that Toxoplasma gondii. It actually hijacks your dopamine. You can feel really down and out, kind of depressed, really unmotivated, just blah, because they can hijack in your brain and take care of that dopamine that you can't access anymore. So you have to watch for these. So here's what I want you to know about parasites, these bad guys. Your doctor, if you go to ask them for parasites, it's very common to get sort of shunted away. Like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just parasites. Here's the thing. Parasites don't exist. Parasites are not a third world problem. We hear this all the time. Well, we don't live in Southeast Asia, Africa, wherever you might find parasites. Well, the truth is they're not a third world problem. Even if we said parasites magically don't exist in our earth, but they exist in their earth for whatever reason. Look at water. Everywhere. The earth is covered in it. Look at shipping and manufacturing. Look at immigration. Look at vacation and travel and recreation. Look at imports and exports of food. There's no way that parasites are just a third world problem anymore, but that's a common misconception. Now, the second thing is your doctor might say, hey, we're not going to bother testing for parasites, but if they do, what we've found is most of those clinical tests like your doctor's going to run is a stool test, at best 40% accurate. Some arguments are up to 90% inaccurate. So let's go with the number of 40%. If you only get 40% accurate, this explains a client of mine. She had 5 different tests. She had 8 tests done over 5 years is what that was. All of them were negative. No parasites. They do a stool test. They're looking for ovum or eggs or something to come out in her poop. But if they live in your brain, your liver, your lungs, your bile ducts, gallbladder, appendix, everywhere but your bowels, they can live in the bowels, but you don't always see them. She had 8 tests over 5 years, all negative, and it turned out she had parasites. We had worms coming out that were 2 feet long. And what they'll do is they'll actually coat themselves in cholesterol like an armor. So they can have these weird, funny shapes. They create mucoid plaques, these dark, thick, black things as well. And that's a byproduct sometimes of having parasites in your system. So you have to understand they can be a really gnarly contributor. You're not always going to find them on a test. So how on earth do we get them? Well, we're going to talk about how we can test for these things as well. Next one, a common misconception, is that if parasites aren't really a thing, we assume they don't contribute to IBD. But in my experience, over 400 cases now reversed over the years, we can say roughly 80% or more, okay? 80% or more of the cases that we see have parasites as the main driver or a major contributing factor. We know parasites drive up certain immune pathways, we call these, like arms of an octopus when your immune system's trying to juggle stuff. Like Th2, it can drive this up. Well, this is going to be part of histamine responses. It can weaken innate immunity, like Th1 or Th17 it can mess with. It can increase these responses as well. Well, if you have an increase of Th17, what do you have? extra neutrophil production, more inflammation, high levels of calprotectin. That happens a lot with this Th17 is elevated, especially due to a parasite. And what does this do? Well, it creates ulcers, inflammation, strictures, fistulas. It breaks down tissue. So when you have a hyperactivation of these pathways, we have to understand that your immune system is now dysregulated. In fact, parasites can actually dysregulate or disrupt by sort of manipulating what we call your Treg cells. Now, Treg, that stands for T regulatory. Remember, we just use words like TH, that's T helper, 2, 17, 1, 9. There's different pathways. Well, these reg cells regulate the T. That's what this is. It's a T helper cell. So they actually regulate these immune pathways. Well, if your parasites come in and dysregulate your immune system, you're going to have a bunch of messed up immune responses. Too high, too low, not enough, infections coming in, you can't keep back, hyperactive infections that are inflaming you, creating ulceration, all kinds of nasty business. Because they're messing with the regulation of your immune system and driving up these responses, all the while contributing to toxins, which dysregulate your immune responses. They contribute to the microbial imbalances and inflammation and dysbiosis, which again dysregulates your immune system. They create deficiencies in nutrients because they're eating them, and you're inflamed, so you need to burn through more of them, which leads to your body being unable to build back and repair itself. So you have a continued disease state. Really nasty stuff. So what are some of the symptoms you can actually get from parasites? This is a really fun one because basically everything, unfortunately, can be a symptom. I've got a list of probably 50 different parasite symptoms that I run my clients through and have them review because they can cause almost any symptom. This is the hard part, but I'm going to give you some of the basics and you can tell me, check, 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 okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep a tally while I'm doing this. Keep a tally. Write it down on a pen and paper, on your cell phone, just count in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, on your fingers, whatever. Because I'm going to list some symptoms. When I'm done listing the symptoms, I want you to tell me how many you have. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through these symptoms, tally up. How many of these symptoms do you have? And when you're done, I want you to give me the number in the box. Just drop it in the comments below. Here's what we're going to say. So the first one, we can actually have a fair bit of pain. Now, obvious with IBD, we can find pain on your liver if you palpate. So your liver, if you look at it here from your belly button, we'll call this one split, and then your hip. This is 1/4 panel of your body. Underneath the rib cage here, if you actually take your fingers and sort of like dig, like you're digging under, trying to get your fingers up inside those ribs, you're going to press on your liver. If you're like, it feels sharp, I feel like I want to vomit, it's really uncomfortable. That's pain on palpation because sometimes, remember we talked about, parasites can live in these bile ducts, these tubes. They can plug them up, which leads to increased pressure. You press on it and it hurts. It can be a parasite issue. If you press around your belly button or appendix, you have pain or discomfort, that whole right side, that could be parasites. They can cause issues again with your gallbladder and bile ducts. So fatty foods might cause you upset, diarrhea, oily, greasy, or floating stools. You might have that. If you have pain in your back or your hips, especially lower back and hips that won't go away with treatment, it could be a parasite. Other things they're going to cause issues with are allergies. Now again, not just allergies as one point. All the things I'm going to tell you can be a symptom, so write them down. If you have seasonal allergies, if you have chronic sinus issues, if you're somebody who struggles with high histamine foods like bone broth, cured meats, canned food, probiotics, fermented foods, yogurts, kefir, all that stuff, you might have an issue with histamines. Well, that can be a parasite problem. That's that Th2 pathway we talked about. If you experience rashes or hives, psoriasis, eczema, those are two huge ones. Psoriasis and eczema, pain in the liver, those are big, big ones we look for. If you have itching, now specifically rectal or vaginal itching, because these can be different types of worms, hookworms, roundworms. You can sometimes get them in these areas which cause irritation and itching. If you are somebody who has SIBO, okay, this is a diagnosis called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Parasites can actually cause SIBO because they block the ducts, or these sphincters rather, and they block up the ducts, which leads to the backflow of certain microbes and toxins recirculating. And you can actually get fecal microbes backflowing from your large into your small intestine. And that can sometimes be a parasite issue. If you've got a low libido, maybe you're prone to eye infections, that can be parasites. If you're somebody who has poor sleep, you find yourself waking up 2 to 4 a.m. Maybe you have trouble getting to sleep. You're finding that you grind your teeth in your sleep or drool in your sleep. Classic textbook signs of parasites. grinding the teeth and drooling are big ones. If you're someone who has trouble gaining weight, if you have issues with fertility or infertility, if you have hormonal issues, even thyroid issues, these can be a parasite problem. Again, back to the skin, I want to reiterate, we talked about psoriasis, eczema, rashes, hives, but if you have dryness, especially the hands and feet, I'm just like dry for some reason, or I'm scaly and flaky, could be a parasite. If you have issues that you struggle with of the mind, maybe you've got issues like anxiety or depression, that can be a parasite issue. Remember, these can hijack dopamine pathways. They can get into your brain. They mess with your gut bacteria, which produces neurotransmitters for your brain. Early signs of hair loss or hair thinning can be a parasite. If you have issues in your liver, not just the pain we talked about on palpation that's pressing, but if you have something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, so fatty liver, elevated cholesterol or liver enzymes, these can be a sign of parasites for a lot of different reasons, but they can be a sign of parasites. So here's what I want you to do. Drop your number below. I just listed like 50 symptoms. How many did you have? Drop them in the comments. So I got my phone here. I'm going to be able to see and I'm going to know how many parasite symptoms you have. We can figure out if this is what's maybe driving your IBD. So the question now we want to ask is, okay, well, I've got all these parasites and I do want to see, drop your number below. The question we ask now is, well, I've got all these parasites. What do I do? What on earth do I do about it? How do I get rid of them? Here's what I can say. In a lot of cases, DIY project, pretty easy. In the case of IBD, it should not be a DIY project. Your immune system is so dysregulated. You have pathways that are way overdone. If you try to do too much too fast, you put yourself in a flare, put yourself in the hospital, ask for help. There's 1,001 ways we can get you that help. Just ask for it. So if you're somebody who stumbled on this, you don't have IBD, DIY, pick up something from a trusted anti-parasite source. But with Crohn's and colitis, you need help because you can imbalance your immune system, cause inflammation, cause a lot of reactions, make yourself very, very sick. And there's a lot of prep work that needs to be done. So for example, remember we talked about how parasites will actually clog up your liver and bile ducts. Those are the tubes where bile is going to flow. It causes recirculation issues, a lot of toxicity issues, all kinds of problems you're going to have. We need to first start by supporting your drainage. Now there are 7 main drainage pathways. Liver and bile ducts are the main ones. But think of it this way. Detoxing is collecting your trash, putting it in a bag. Drainage is how you bring it out to the curb. It's getting rid of it. So you have 7 ways your body gets rid of things. I'll try to do this off the top of my head. First, liver, gallbladder, and bile ducts. Those are the main 2 that we have to focus on when we're dealing with IBD. So I'm just going to put liver and bile. Other exit doors that you have, of course, are going to be your lymphatic system. You got your bowels. So again, any way that you poop. You have your kidneys. So that's going to be filtering out your urine. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You also have your skin. And then you've got, of course, your sinuses. And you can get parasites in your sinuses. They can come out of anywhere. Anywhere. Just so you guys know. But these are your 7 main drainage pathways, your exit. Liver, bile ducts, lymphatic system, bowels, kidneys, skin, and sinuses. These are how things get out of your system. You got issues inside of your gut. You wonder why you got skin issues. It's pushing out through your skin, causing inflammation. If you're having issues with digestion or whatever it is, guess what? If you're having issues in your sinuses, chronic runny nose, allergies, maybe your symptoms pop up like 1 week out of a month or seasonally. You're like, oh, my bowels get really bad at this time, or around your menstrual cycle. Could be parasites because it's impacting your immune system in these drainage pathways. So the first thing we have to do when we're dealing with getting rid of parasites is opening up drainage. Now, oftentimes this looks like any kind of drainage support. We can go through sweating, sunlight, exercise, earthing, and grounding. But oftentimes we can use supplements as well. One of my favorites, it's not the be all end all, but it's a great one for this, is called TUDCA, TUDCA. Really powerful supplement to help get that bile flowing. It actually is restorative for your liver. It's anti-inflammatory. It can help modulate your immune system. It's a staple in nearly every protocol that I write up for parasites. TUDCA, very, very important. So we got your liver and bile ducts. You have to take care of that. Lymphatics, you can actually look up on YouTube called The Big 6 Lymphatic, and he's got some very simple stuff you can do with these 6 lymphatic points at the neck, the collarbones, the armpit. They go through the belly, the hips, around the pelvis, and then the backs of the knees. There's 6 lymphatic spots you can just do on an easy basis. Bowels, if you have diarrhea, that's not good drainage. If you have constipation, it's not good drainage. Kidneys, as long as you're hydrating, for the most part, you'll be okay unless you're prone to stones. Skin, that's going to happen. Nothing you can do about it. Sinuses, you can use sinus rinses to help clean some of that stuff. But we need to have things moving through your body to move out of your body. So the first step in getting rid of parasites in IBD is drainage. We need drainage. Then we're going to go through the process of the 5 R's. If you've not heard me talk about these before, we're going to break them down for you really fast in the context of parasites. So the first R is remove. What does it mean? Well, remove the problem. Remove the parasites. We have to work once drainage is open. Oftentimes, we can remove them with parasite killers. There's a lot of work to do for drainage. Sometimes takes 4, 6, 8 weeks on a structured protocol to get done, but then we can move on to removing the parasites. So we can actually get them out with anti-parasitic protocols. The next thing we want to work on is replenishing. Your body needs tools. Remember, we talked about toxins. We talked about microbes and deficiencies as the 3 reasons why you get sick. Well, we have to remove the microbe itself because they're causing deficiencies. They are the microbial issue that produce toxins. So by removing them, you've taken care of the bulk of the issue. But you're still deficient. Parasites eat nutrients in the way of muscle tissue, liver, lung, nutrients like iron, hemoglobin, fats, bile, all that stuff. So we need to give your body what's been stolen. We need to replenish the stores. The next we're going to do is going back to rebuild. Well, rebuild what? Parasites create inflammation, which disrupts your microbiome. So the ecosystem's all screwed up. We have to go back and rebuild that microbiome or rebalance it. And then we can actually, I'm going to put this here because it's kind of a same time thing. We want to repair. A lot of people are coming to see me and they go, I heard this thing is really good for leaky gut. Do I have leaky gut? Look, if you've got bloat and you've got leaky gut, if you've got inflammation, you've got leaky gut. Crohn's, colitis, for sure the leakiest of guts. IBS, leaky gut. Acid reflux, leaky gut. If you have any kind of GI symptom, you got leaky gut. In fact, if you have other body symptoms with no GI symptoms, you might still have leaky gut. So you have to understand, if you're trying to take a bunch of supplements like powders, VGL and slippery elm and aloe vera and all these different things to try to repair your gut lining to patch the leaky gut, it's like you're trying to build a house while it's on fire. It is currently being broken down by the microbe. You have a lack of nutrients to support that and repair that. Your microbiome is a mess. So by adding in something to try to patch the leaks in your gut, you're building a house while it's on fire. It's going to continue to break down. Your only hope is to try to build it back faster than it's tearing down. But even then, it comes a dependence. Plant-based medication, right? So that's not an answer. So we have to make sure we remove, replenish, rebuild, and repair in a structured process. And then lastly, this is where we can come in and rejuvenate the immune system. Remember, we talk about your immune responses. They should be like this, really nicely balanced, even keel, super cool. What happens in IBD, your responses are like this. They're way out of whack. What happens when you boost your immune system? You boost the width between those. You just boost one thing up, which can actually cause you to go into a flare. We need to rejuvenate or rebalance that immune system. That's how it gets done. So parasites, a lot of nasty symptoms, a lot of nasty deficiencies, they create in themselves the 3 pillars of why humans get sick. There's a lot of reasons we can get sick, but it comes down to toxins, deficiencies, and microbes. Parasites make all 3. There's a ton of nasty symptoms, and I'd love to know how many symptoms you counted that you guys had seen inside of your body. Drop it in the comments below. Here's what I want to tell you. Over 400 cases now reversed, people coming off medication, going back to their doctors are perplexed because after 15 years of drugs, they no longer need them. They no longer have symptoms. They no longer have pain. Their scopes and scans perfectly clear. Biopsies clear. No disease. Gone. Why? Because we open up the drainage, we remove the problem, replenish the nutrients, rebuild and repair the system, and then we rejuvenate the immune system. That's how your body gets healed. Your body's trying to heal you all the time. You are inflamed because your body is actively trying to heal you. That's what inflammation is. It is a healing response. Instead of just shutting it up and putting tape over its mouth, we have to ask, what is it trying to heal you from? Imagine going to your mechanic and you go, I got this weird noise in my car. He's like, cool, here's some earplugs. Does it fix the problem? No, it just means you don't notice it, but it's still going to continue to break down. Medications mask the inflammatory responses, which make you feel better, but it doesn't solve the problem. So if you want to get help solving the problem to reverse this, leave it up to your doctor to be perplexed and let us fix it for you. If you're listening on the podcast, or you're watching on the YouTube channel, I want you to check the links in the show notes below. There's a link there. You can schedule a call with me and my team. And here's how this goes. It is so easy. We set up a quick call. First call is free. All I want to know is, can I help you? Can we identify your root causes? Do we know what's causing your IBD? If we do, then we're going to say, look, here's what we expect, how long it should take, about how much it might cost you to end up doing between supplements and programming, etc. Is this a good fit for you or not? If yes, perfect. Let's get you started and get you better. If not, amazing. Hey, I got a podcast and a YouTube channel. I hope it serves you well. That's what these calls are about. I just want to know if we can help you. Now I'm going to turn over to the comment section for questions. Now is a great time to get to them. I don't just do these to tell you things that I want you to know. I want to know what you want to know so that I can help you answer those questions. Let's turn over to Instagram first today. What do we got for questions over there?
Got a couple questions here. First one is, do you work with UC patients?
First question for Instagram, do we work with UC patients? Absolutely. Ulcerative colitis is probably 60 to 70% of what we see. The other 30 to 40 is Crohn's. And we don't need to see you in person, ever. I'm up in Canada. We got clients in Vietnam. I've seen people in India, Thailand, Africa, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere, parts of Europe. There's no place we can't help you. We don't never need to see you in person. What are we going to do? Poke your belly? We don't need it. If you have blood work, you're going to send it in. If you have scans and scopes, send it in. It's just information for us to collect. Your symptoms, your tests, your story, your history. Tell us everything. So ulcerative colitis is the bulk of what we do. It's just because it's more common than Crohn's disease. What's the other question?
Can parasites be everywhere or just in the liver?
Such a great question. The question is, can parasites be everywhere or just in the liver? Anywhere. Parasites will be where the food is, and certain types of parasites perform different functions. Let's go back to one of my favorites. I did a podcast episode on it, episode 6 of Reversible, I believe. And I actually talked about this parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. And what it does, it actually gets into the brain. Here's the long and short of it. This parasite lives and thrives when it's in the belly of a cat. Whether it's the acidity, the enzymes, I don't know. But it loves being in the belly of a cat. So its prime directive is to get into cats. Long and short, it'll infect mice because that's cat food. But mice run away from cats. The smell of urine, they run away. The meow, they run away. So what does a parasite do? This toxoplasma, it gets into the brain. It actually burns out the brain, the part of their brain stem, whatever it is that simulates the fear response, whether that's the amygdala or I'm not a neuroscientist. But anyway, it gets in there and it burns it out. That means the mice are no longer afraid of cats. In some instances, may seek them out even as sexual partners. So they're really ballsy. Then the cat eats the mouse. The parasite gets into the belly of the cat, lives happily ever after. But interesting enough, it can also get into big cats, like jungle cats, not just house cats. And so in Southeast Asia, India, we have more wild cats, lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, it'll actually infect humans because humans are prey over there for these big cats. Really scary stuff. The long and short of it is parasites will get wherever they need to eat the food source that they want. They can get into your liver if they like liver fats and bile. If they like liver tissue, they can get into your lungs if they like lung tissue. If they like to eat brain tissue, they get to your brain, right? They can be anywhere where the food is. And you can actually pick them up through food, through water, through contact, sexual contact, especially if you're in a parasite cleansing phase, like abstain from sex with your partner because you can actually transit parasites. They can come out of anywhere. We've heard stories of them coming out of all kinds of orifices. I've had people who've done sinus rinses and had worms coming out of their nose. It can happen. They can really be anywhere. Any more questions over there?
Yeah, a couple actually.
Yeah, what have we got?
So one says, I've had chronic sinus infections most of my life. Could parasites be part of that?
So the question is, I've had chronic sinus infections most of my life. Can parasites be part of that?
There's a follow-up. They've also had Crohn's for 10 years.
And has Crohn's for 10 years. So here's what's interesting. Depending on how old you are, there's 2 ways that people get disease, right? 2 ways. Either 1, it's going to be rapid onset, or 2, it's going to be slow onset. So someone who comes into me with Crohn's, colitis, an acute infection, maybe it was an acute parasite infection over a trip to Mexico or wherever, came back a month later, now they got bowel disease. That can be a really rapid onset. Others, it's a slow wear and tear, where it's like, hey, I had bowel issues most of my life, and then one day I was diagnosed with IBS in my teens, and then a couple years later in my 20s, I was diagnosed with colitis, and then 10 years after that, I was diagnosed with Crohn's, and on it goes. You can have the slow wear and tear like wearing a pair of shoes without socks, where the heel rubs and gets red and blisters and bleeds. The same thing can happen in your bowels. So assume you were born, worst case scenario, you were born C-section, you were bottle fed strictly, You had infections early on, were given antibiotics. Maybe you lived in a city and didn't have a lot of pets. And maybe you were also like hyper sterilized, sanitizing your hands all the time. You have no ecosystem to protect you. And so what happens, you have these low-grade infections that wear and tear, leads to allergy responses, sinus infections, we call MCAS or mast cell activation syndrome, all kinds of symptoms you can accumulate. And then as your body starts to break down, you get more and more inflamed over time. Your defenses start to break down. When your defenses are down because of this huge burden, what happens is your body over time will then begin to allow more bad guys in. So you might be more prone to parasite infections. Or maybe you had a mold infection early on leading to sinus issues, asthma, allergies, whatever, which is a prime environment for parasites to come in, where there's always a compounding. But that's kind of the slow version where it's a disease that develops over time. But whether it was fast because of an infection you got that was acute that never went away, or it was a slow process, either way, something happened to make you sick. So it's never a random disease. Like your doctor says, it's just genetic, it's just autoimmune, it's just random, we don't know why. Bullshit, we know why. We just have to walk back the clock and spend more than 7 minutes with you in the office to give you a drug. We need a couple of hours with you to figure it out, build a timeline, and then reverse engineer the process. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, they commented, they said spot on, C-section birth, bottle fed, and given antibiotics like candy due to sinus infections.
There you have it. So likely what's happened, I don't know if you heard Kate in the background there, C-section birth, bottle fed, a lot of sinus infections, given antibiotics like candy. So you're prone, prime time real estate there, for fungus to overgrow. Fungus also invites in parasites. Your immune system is compromised. As that fungus overgrows, male or female, do we know by the username? That's okay.
I think female.
Most of our clients we see are female, so it's very common to have bowel issues. And if you have fungal issues, you might see nail fungus, you might see vaginal yeast infections, you might see even oral thrush yeast infections. Maybe you get rashes, hives, or like fungal patches. Maybe you're somebody who you crave sweets like crazy. All kinds of issues, brain fog, allergies, irritability, anxiety, depression, insomnia. All these things can come from fungus. If you crave carbs, starches, sweets, sugars, alcohols, could be fungus because they hijack your brain because that's the food they love. And again, your immune system is now compromised, and what happens? Parasites get invited into the party. And this is what the slow wear and tear leads to your disease. But I'm willing to bet your doctor never asked you this. They said, well, you have this disease, here's a drug to cover it. But in what are we, 33 minutes now into this live? You just unpacked how you develop Crohn's disease. Now we just have to reverse engineer the process, we can fix it. And if you want help, just send me a DM with the word solution. It can be this easy. It's just unraveling it that takes time. In men, you're not going to get vaginal yeast infections, obviously, but maybe you can actually get like penile itching, or maybe you get some jock itch. There can be fungal infections, athlete's foot's more common, a white film on your tongue, bad breath. All those can be, check out, like Google Candida symptoms and see if you have any of them, because it can cause that problem. And here's the thing, it can be easy, right? Your body doesn't break down for no reason. We're not designed to make mistakes. We're not created to be sick. Sickness is a byproduct of dysfunction. Our bodies are meant to function perfectly. You're only ever inflamed because your body is trying to heal you. If you have an inflammatory response, everything from a skin rash to Crohn's disease to sinus issues to arthritis, whatever it is, it's an inflammatory response that is a byproduct of a toxin, a microbe, or a deficiency, or a combination of all the above. We reverse engineer the process, figure out how this happened, bing, bang, boom, your body gets better. That's all there is to it. Guys, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you so much. We're going to see you all next week. One of my favorite things to hear as an IBD specialist is something along the lines of, I learned more from you in 15 minutes than from my doctor in 15 years. And if this for the first time is really starting to click and it's starting to make sense, and you're going, wait a minute, this might be reversible. I think there's more that I can do. This condition came out of nowhere. It happened to me out of the blue. I was healthy for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and suddenly I wasn't, and you're telling me there's no cause. If you're understanding finally that there is a cause, that something is driving this, I want to invite you to check the link in the show notes below. Send me an email, ask a question, see if a program is a right fit for you, because I promise you, this doesn't have to be a lifelong sentence. You're not doomed to this, and IBD can be reversed.